Hey everyone, before we touch upon my potential transfer plans, my transfer targets, and my team selection for Game Week 11, let's take a brief look at when we could use the free hit. When is the best time to use the free hit? Well, there's no doubles, there's no blanks in the first half of the season, so I'm kind of focusing my energy towards Game Week 13. I think you would have seen this quite a lot in the community, looking around and stuff like that, and it's because it's genuinely a good week. You know, you have Arsenal who play Chelsea. I personally have like 4 assets in that game, so I don't really want them all playing in one game. It's the same with Manchester United and Crystal Palace. You know, owning Mbumo, Sarr, Matata and Richards in that game is just not ideal. That's basically 8 assets in 2 matches. So you could look to come off those teams. You know, you could also look to target some, other teams. You know, Manchester City play Leeds, which could be a good fixture to invest in. It's the same with Liverpool against West Ham. You know, Liverpool have a good set of fixtures, and West Ham is one of them who have been awful lately. You know, we could even look at Aston Villa who play Wolves, maybe even Brentford who play Burnley. So there's a lot of kind of potential there, I think, to avoid both avoid fixtures and target investment in fixtures. So Game Week 13 is definitely around that I am looking to play the free hit in, and it's really important that I mention that because it kind of contributes to my transfer plans, potential team selection and stuff like that. So let's now take a look at some transfer targets for Game Week 11. So one of the players I am looking at, I'm holding back a laugh or a smile at the moment because João Pedro is just a ridiculous troll, isn't he? I mean, I sold him a couple of weeks back because he didn't have like a shot he had like one shot in the box in a 5-match period, and here we are again looking to buy him back. It's absolutely insanity, but here we are. Gokaresh is injured for me, which is an issue. It also means that, I need to look for another striker. Unfortunately, there aren't loads and loads of good striker options with good fixtures out there. And unfortunately, João Pedro is one of the ones with good fixtures. Now, he had mixed performances in the past couple of matches. Obviously, a good performance in his last Premier League match, but a poor one midweek where he accumulated less than like 0.1 XGI, which again, is not good. And what he's done for most of his matches, but you look at his, he's among the top strikers for total goal contributions, with 6. His XGI is okay. His predicted points is really good. He's had 5 big chances as well. But you take a look at the fixtures there. Chelsea have really, really good fixtures next. Wolves at home, Burnley away. Yes, Arsenal is there. But if I was free hitting in Game Week 13, I would not have to own João Pedro for that. I wouldn't have to worry about that fixture at all. So take that fixture away. Wolves, Burnley, Leeds, Bournemouth and Everton. You can't really ask for better fixtures than that. So I think they're good fixtures for João Pedro to do well in. Obviously, it's whether he will do well. It's his lack of kind of activity, his goal involvement in general has just not been great. Obviously, with Palmer coming back, it will help. The international break will help Palmer come back and do some bits with and help maybe bring João Pedro back into the game. But I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% on bringing João Pedro back. He has dropped in price, though, so it will be cheaper to bring him back in. So that is one of my transfer targets, unfortunately, for Game Week 11. Now, Declan Rice is also on my radar. Arsenal are top of the league now. They look really, really confident. It looks like they're going to run away with it, but you never know with the Premier League. I mean, regardless, they are scoring most of their goals from set plays. They are set-piece specialists, aren't they? It's a joy to watch, obviously. I know not a lot of people don't like it, but even the corners and free kicks, they feel like penalties for Arsenal. And unfortunately, Rice is involved in that. As a set-piece taker, he will gain from those set pieces. He comes in at a really nice price, around 6.8 million. His ownership is already, quite high. I imagine that's a lot of casuals, but also a lot of people who are starting to clock onto the fact that DEFCONs are having a big impact on the game, right? He's averaging around 9 to 10 DEFCONs per 90. So not only is he benefiting from the set pieces, he's also getting attacking returns. You can see 2 goals and 4 assists. His underlying data is pretty good. Predicted points are fairly good as well. So you just look down to the fixtures, and obviously Sunderland next. They then have Tottenham at home. I wouldn't have to worry about the fixture away, the fixture against Chelsea in game week 13 as someone who is free hitting. And then after that, Brentford, Aston Villa, and Wolves. I think they are really, really good fixtures for Declan Rice. I think the only issue is, obviously, for me, in my case and many others, they already are tripled up on Arsenal. So it would take two or maybe even three transfers to bring him in, but I imagine at his price point it would be pretty easy for some who just have two Arsenal attackers. There's some doubt that you're blocking yourself off from someone like Saka or maybe even Gokaresh when he returns as well, right? We don't yet know who is the best Arsenal attacker. Saka's not really done much. Gokaresh has scored the odd goal, but nothing really consistent, whereas Declan Rice has been the most consistent Arsenal asset. So he is someone I am definitely considering. Now, my third and final transfer target before we take a look at my potential transfer plans and team is Dominic Szoboszlai. I think immediately you can see a sea of green at the bottom of the screen, can't you? I know Man City is a tough fixture there. Some could argue that it is a grey fixture for Liverpool based on how good they are offensively and how dodgy and ropey Manchester City are from a defensive perspective. But, you look past that fixture and every single fixture feels like a good one. Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton, fantastic fixtures from an offensive perspective. Now, usually we would be looking at the likes of Gakpo, we'd be looking at the likes of Salah, but I just think, with the amount with minutes and game time, it's a lot of it is up in the air at the moment, and it feels like Szoboszlai is going to play most games. He's on set pieces. He's actually managing 12 DEFCONs per 90, which is what you want. It's fantastic, especially, with an asset with threat. You don't get many kind of midfielder assets who have goal threat and attacking threat who also meet the DEFCON threshold. So really happy with Szoboszlai as an option, especially at 6.5. Feels like an easy swap from the likes of Kudus, the likes of NDI. So if you want Liverpool coverage, Szoboszlai feels like a really, really easy option to go with, especially at his price point. So let's now take a look at my potential transfer strategy. Now, before we take a look at my Game Week 11 team selection, let's take a look at a couple of plans that I could consider. Obviously, with Gokaresh now injured, I think, until after the international break. He's also got a couple of fixtures, tough fixtures actually, after the international break. Not tough fixtures, but fixtures you wouldn't maybe necessarily want to target. Obviously, Tottenham, Chelsea. I would only really miss probably the Chelsea fixture if I was free hitting in Game Week 13, which is likely. So selling him maybe not an issue for me, but with Havertz coming back, maybe it is. It's also who I'd be selling him for. I think the top candidate at the moment is obviously João Pedro. He's a player who has trolled me in the past. He's also very cheap though. So if I was to make the downgrade, it would mean having a lot of budget to do upgrades elsewhere. It would be a straight swap. Obviously, this would also mean having to bench someone in my current team, and they all have good fixtures, and they all, as it stands, are, I think, fit. So making this move would kind of give me a benching headache. It gives me the problem is going into this week, I would have no Chelsea kind of attacking coverage apart from Enzo, and also without Gokaresh, I don't have any Arsenal attacking coverage against Sunderland, which is kind of worrying, but that is part of the game, isn't it? This is one of the strategies that I'm thinking about. I could also go and just sell NDI early. Eventually he is going to go off to AFCON. I'm going to have a few players actually who are going to AFCON, so I don't really want to sort them out all at the same time. I don't think that is a viable option. I could get rid of him, prior to his home match against Fulham. He did pick up a kind of bit of cramp in the 60th minute last time out. So if he's not fit, then this is definitely a move, a straight swap to Szoboszlai, who, again, as we've already mentioned, set pieces, DEFCONs, great fixtures long term. Making the move early could be, a really good move, actually. Or simply, I could just roll. I think, I could just roll, reevaluate the situation after the international break, because you've got to remember, after this week, we have an international break, and I think having, flexibility with transfers after an international break is quite a wise thing to do. So they are my potential transfer plans for this week, Game Week 11. Let's now take a look at my Game Week 11 team selection. Before we take a look at my Game Week 11 team selection, let's take a look at my Game Week 8. I ended up on 86 points. It was a round rank of around 800k. I moved from 2.3 million to 1.6 million. So another big green arrow. I need to keep the green arrows coming. Arsenal defence came in clutch as usual. You also had the likes of Crystal Palace assets doing well. Barca, it was Matata who got the goal. Richards who kept the clean sheet. Andy and Keane did really well on the Monday night as well. Going into that had a small green and then it was a big green due to those guys. Gokarash scored and got bonus before he got injured. But yeah, it was a quiet night for most of my midfield. It was pretty much my front line that did a lot of the damage, which was to my previous rank, which was good. So let's now take a look at my Game Week 11 team. So in goal this week for Game Week 11, yes, I'll be starting David Raya yet again, who plays Sunderland. Arsenal are one of the favourites to keep a clean sheet again. I know, shocking, but I would not be playing Dubravka against West Ham, albeit West Ham have been poor. I just trust the Arsenal defence at this point so much that, I am quite happy to play Raya every single week. So Raya will be starting for me in between the sticks. So it's a back three from me this week. I know there's been a lot of talk of the back four becoming increasingly popular. I can see why, with the introduction of DEFCON. And defensive contributions. But yeah, it's a back three for me this week. Rich is very happy to have him. He's very, very cheap way into the Crystal Palace defence. They kept the clean sheet in the last match, and Rich has obviously benefited from that. He's also kind of quite consistent in terms of DEFCONs as well. So yeah, I mean, he's got a couple of routes to points. It's the same with Gabriel, really. He's an absolute shoe-in this week. Sunderland have been good this season, but there's no way I'm not starting Gabriel. It seems to be a clean sheet and an attacking return most weeks for him. So I mean, there's even people that have been captaining him recently. So that just says it all, really. Completing the fence, yes, I suppose there is a decision to be made between Michael Keane of Everton and Senesi of Bournemouth. Now Everton have a home match against Fulham, who haven't really convinced me this season offensively. So I think that's why I'm kind of swerving towards, having Keane starting over Senesi at the moment. I do think both will get DEFCON this week. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's less chance that Senesi will keep a clean sheet away to Aston Villa, who, have been improving as of late. I just feel like there's more clean sheet potential there for Michael Keane than there is for Marco Senesi. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm really hoping I'm not. So that will be my back three, likely heading into Game Week 11. So obviously Gabriel, Richards and Keane. I'm actually really happy to have the squad depth, this week. I know I made some interesting transfers over the last couple of weeks, giving myself 8 really good attackers, but, potentially giving myself a week in, week out bench headache. But it's actually worked in my favour. Obviously, benching Enzo last week, I got really lucky with that. And this week, Gokarash is injured. So, it allows me to be able to play all of my, fit attackers this week. Now, and Mbeumo, against Tottenham, it's the early game. I expect him. And Mbeumo actually outperformed Bruno on XG last week, albeit he didn't return and Bruno did. Tottenham have been pretty bad, actually, in some of their matches. They conceded like 3 point something XG to Chelsea in a recent match, which tells me that, Manchester United could really do well against Tottenham. So I'm quite happy to play Mbeumo. The same can be said for Semenyo, albeit, he's not been fantastic lately. I know, he's one of the most owned players in the game now. But I do still think Villa is a good fixture from a defensive perspective, from an attacking perspective. Having an attacker in that match, I think it's definitely suited. I don't think he's ready to be sold just yet. I think let's see how Semenyo goes. Obviously, he doesn't go to AFCON this season because Ghana didn't qualify. But I think just monitor his performances over the next couple of weeks and then make a decision. I wouldn't make any rash calls about selling him just yet, but I am super, super happy to still have him in the team. Enzo comes off the bench this week. I think the fact that, yes, Chelsea were poor against Karabakh in the week, they still scored a couple of goals, so Chelsea do look convincing in attack, no matter which attackers they play. Enzo continues to get good chances. He actually had a really good chance in the match against Karabakh midweek and missed. He also underperformed. He does kind of regularly underperform on his XG, which is a slight concern. But because he's getting into so many, good situations in which he could return in, I think it makes him kind of an easy kind of addition to the lineup, especially with Wolves this week and Chelsea looking to bounce back after their draw in the Champions League. I've also got Saar. I think it's a good fixture against Brighton. Brighton haven't really proved much defensively this season. I think they're one of the teams who've kept. They rank among the teams who've kept not many clean sheets. So I think they are one of the worst defenses in the league in terms of keep conceding regularly. They're not conceding loads and loads, but they're conceding regularly enough to kind of want to target them. So Saar, he was unlucky actually. I think in his last match, and I think obviously Crystal Palace were really good last time out and Saar missed a couple of big chances, but the fact he's getting those chances is really, really positive. Completing the midfield is, of course, NDI, who picked up the 9-pointer last week for me. Now, he did come off with cramp around the 60th minute last time out. It is quite concerning that he came off that early with cramp. Still half an hour to play, but he was amazing. His goal was fantastic. He's still on pen for Everton. Everton have a home game against a leaky Fulham side, so if he's fit, I can't really not start him, right? And he's so good, isn't he? He's such a good player. So that is my midfield going into game week 11. So, yes, you can see Gyökeres is on the bench. I'm not quite sure what to do with him. I think if I was to sell him for João Pedro this week, I would have to make a decision again, as normal, on who to bench. If NDI is out of action this week, I doubt he is, but if he is, then I could make the move from Gyökeres to João Pedro and play João Pedro ahead of NDI, who will obviously, sit this one out on the bench for now. I think eventually I'll look to sell NDI because of AFCON. I don't really want loads and loads of AFCON players as we draw closer to that date. Now, obviously, up front, as ever, is Erling Haaland, who takes the captaincy. I think if this was away from home, if this was, we saw a good performance from Liverpool, didn't we, at home against Real Madrid in their 1-0 win. I think if this was obviously, if this was away from home, there would be a serious argument. And I still think there could be to not captain Haaland this week. But I just think Manchester City at home, he was good against Dortmund. He came off early. They had the flexibility to bring him off early. It's a big game for him. He loves these type of games against a title rival like Liverpool. So I think he's definitely going to score. How many he is going to score is the question, I suppose. Is it going to be enough to secure a good captaincy return? Because I think many of us expect Mateta, who is my vice captain, to do well too, right? I think Brighton at home is a very good fixture. I think we expect both strikers to return this week. So there definitely is a kind of question marks about who to captain there. But I think so far I am going for Haaland. So that is my team for game week 11. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, again, please hit that subscribe button. Again, slowly creeping towards the 1K subs mark. So please like and subscribe the video, and I'll see you guys again soon.